Donald Trump is reigniting his tariff war with Apple threatening to impose an import tax of at least 25% on iPhones not made in the U.S. With more on this, we're joined by technology analyst and journalist Carmi Levy. Thanks for being here.
Good to be with you, Jennifer. Thanks for having me.
So this comes even though Apple was looking to make a move, is that right?
Yeah, Apple has already said that it will be investing hundreds of millions of dollars in American production. They haven't provided details or a timeline yet, but they've committed to doing what they can to repatriate what they can. But clearly, that is not enough. It's not quick enough, and it's not definitive enough for Mr. Trump, who has now threatened them. If they don't move faster than they are, he will impose 25% tariffs on anything that is made outside of the U.S. And of course, right now, 90% of all the iPhones that are sold in the U.S. are manufactured in China, in their two major factories there. So Apple finds itself between a rock and a hard place because no matter what they offer Mr. Trump, obviously it isn't good enough at this point.
And now they've also been talking about having parts potentially made in India?
Yeah, this goes back to Trump 1.0, his first administration, when he started rattling his trade sabers. Then Apple recognized they needed to diversify some of their production and started winding up production in both Vietnam as well as India. And so they have begun to shift some of their iPhone and other device production. In fact, most of their Apple Watches now are not manufactured in China. They're manufactured in these new jurisdictions. But, you know, obviously the iPhones are still largely based in China at both Pegatron and Foxconn. And, you know, it's not something that you can just simply flip on overnight. It is something that takes years to build. You've got to build those factories, got to hire those workers, you've got to train them, you've got to build up that supply chain. And it's not something that's done so easily. These are massive factories in China, and they are not easily replicated anywhere else, let alone in the U.S.
Yeah, so to reshore it to the U.S., I mean, that would take probably, as you had mentioned, so long. What would that mean ultimately for the consumer?
The unfortunate part of this is there's a reason these phones are made in China as well as increasingly in India and Vietnam, is that they can do it better than anyone else. They're significantly more efficient. They're significantly more productive. They've got the supply chains in place. And so if you bring all of that back, if you reshore it or repatriate it, whatever you call it, in an American factory, that will likely lead to significant price increases for whatever it is that you buy, because in the U.S., there aren't those hundreds of thousands of workers who have that capability. They're not that productive, even if you could find them. They certainly wouldn't be willing to work for Chinese-level wages. And to replicate that supply chain would take untold billions of dollars and untold years. And so it's a case of be careful what you wish for, because even if magically these factories do end up being built in the U.S., it will result in a cost structure that's so high that not even Apple will be able to absorb it. You and I would likely be paying 2 to 3 times as much for an iPhone, and it's already an aspirational product. It'll become beyond luxury, beyond affordable.
Yeah, that would be quite the price jump for sure. Samsung is also taking part of this, and other manufacturers?
Yeah, Donald Trump, as he continued his diatribe in that interview, he did mention Samsung. He's putting them on blast, and it pretty much means any technology company that sells any electronics into the U.S. market is, depending on the whim of the president, at risk here. And we've already seen companies like Acer and Frame. They sell the smartphones and laptops, and they've already announced price increases. We've seen a number of SKUs or items, lower priced items that are already less profitable to begin with. Many companies are no longer bringing those in because they can't sell them at a profit in this new regime. So the market is already shifting. It will not be limited to Apple and Samsung, and unfortunately this will affect the entire electronic spectrum. Smartphones, laptops, tablets, whoever you buy them from, if this continues, they will become more expensive and harder to find.
Okay, so ultimately, what kind of concessions can be made here, I guess, or what can Apple or Samsung or any of them offer up to kind of keep the president maybe not from imposing any tariffs?
They can start sharing details on what that repatriation effort might look like. In other words, you're not going to manufacture every iPhone, but maybe certain niche products, higher end products that could be repatriated in some way. Provide a timeline, provide dollar figures, provide details on how you're going to build that workforce up and what it would look like, and also be realistic about pricing and costing, because that is going to affect the economy. So right now we've seen some very high level, I call them 50,000 foot promises from some of the technology companies. It's time to share those details, and it's time for the companies to fight back and be realistic about what those timelines are. Help educate Mr. Trump about how unfeasible most of his demands are and how economic reason needs to lead, not political will.
Well, thank you so much for your analysis and discussion this morning. That is Carmi
Appreciate being with
Levy.
you. Thanks.
Thanks,
Jennifer.